but you're all going to be winners here. So you better keep those papers and pencils out, because I got to tell you, this is going to be phenomenal. Without David, I never could have scaled my properties from the 2 that I had from 17 years to up over 75. How about making more money with more rentals and having a pro in your pocket to keep you on the straight and narrow? An advocate, tracking all the new laws with his great podcast. All for free. Well, 95 cents. We have to create a relationship. So 95 cents for life. What do you think? Is that pretty good? All right. Well, Rent Perfect takes your business to the next level. They do the applications, they do the leases, they do the move in, they move out, this is the detective agency. Let me introduce to you, after 22 hours in flight airports, all the way from Arizona, Dave Pickron and Rent Perfect.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I never thought I would introduce myself from the state and be proud to have Kristen Sinema as our senator. But she really is saving us on so many things, and we're grateful for that. So I'm floating in from Arizona, certainly grateful today. Guys, I am at the heart. I have a program that you can run your whole portfolio on right from your phone. You don't even need a desktop, right from your phone. But we're really not, what we're going to talk about today is going to we're going to show you how to do that. But at the heart of it, I'm a private investigator, okay? I'm a man who wants information, okay? So guys, what is a private investigator? What does a private investigator do? Does he drive Ferraris? Not necessarily. I wish I did. Okay. Huh? Find information. I jump out of helicopters. I get in fights every day. No? No. You guys don't believe that? All right. My Magnum PI days are gone, okay? But so really what we do is we dig hard and deep to find out all the information you guys want on your potential applicants, okay? Because if you have all of the information you need on your potential applicants, what can you do? You can make a great decision, right? Because how do we project the future? By looking in the past, right? Okay? And so there are a lot of companies out there that do what I do. We call them database companies. You can get online, spend $9. They claim they get a background check on somebody. What they do is they gather some information from the courts. They run your name and date of birth through the thing, through their database, and they spit back and say, there's no record found. Do you know what that means? No record found? It just wasn't in their database, right? There was no record found in our database. And so a lot of my competitors want to come back and tell you guys, no record found, hoping you're going to think that it means no criminal history, whatever. So we're going to take a little different approach today as we talk about some things. For some of my seasoned landlords in here, some of the things I talk about today, you're going to be going, yeah, we know that. That's obvious. But we do have some new people here today that we want to share, and we want to get them into this business because this is an awesome business. Now, when I go to the LA RIAs and the Arizona RIAs, okay, I go up to Colorado RIAs. Do you guys know what they're talking about? They're talking about coming to Toledo, and you're dead on. Okay, I'm building 2 rentals right now, $342,000 each. Okay, I think Steph and I, my wife's back here, we stole a condo, 1,300 square foot condo for like 186 and put $30,000 into it. And we thought we had just cashed in, smoke and deal, right? When I hear 29,000, 35,000, I get the checkbook out, guys. Buy it. Buy it, because guess who's coming? All of us who don't have those opportunities. When I go to these RIAs, I don't see vendors lined up. Not because they don't want to be. Do you know why? They don't have enough. I had a drip coming out of a ceiling of one of my rentals the other night. I went up there, I cut the drywall myself because I couldn't find a drywall guy. I saw that one of the pipes was leaking. I got a plumber over there. For some reason, the plumber I found, but my drywall guy, it's been sitting there for 2 weeks, and guess who calls me every night? I got a hole in my ceiling. Yeah, I know. I got a hole in my ceiling. Okay. If you would have put it there, you wouldn't call me, but for some reason, you're calling me now, right? But anyway, so we're having a really hard time. So take advantage of all of these vendors here. This is a blessing for you guys. If you're new in this RIA, you are at ground zero, in my opinion. You are in an opportunity to really make a lot of money. And I will tell you, probably in the next year or two, I'm getting together with Anna, and I'm probably going to buy some properties here in Ohio, because there is zero where I'm from. I used to have this 5-mile radius, and now I've got to get out of this 5-mile radius from my home. Does any of you guys have that problem, that 5-mile radius? You kind of want rentals close to you, so you can always keep an eye on it? I'm going to have to get like a 5-state radius now or something, right? So anyway, success of a landlord, and that's what we want for all of you guys, is all about the right people. And I used to stop there. I used to say it's all about getting the right people. You know, everybody always wants to talk about, I bought this for cheap, I got this house. They always want to talk about the deal. I love buying the homes and the duplexes. I love that just like you guys do. But your success is the second investment, is what I call it, is the people that are going into the home. How much money do you make when you buy a home and it sits there empty? So am I right when I say your success is based on the people that you put into your house? I don't even care sometimes, like if I'm going to purchase a home and I'm purchasing it for my short-term rental portfolio, I know how much money I make out of my short-term rentals, and I make more than my long-term rentals. I'll pay more for the property. I'll pay more for it. I'll bid it up. People are like, you're buying it over? Yeah, but I know what I'm going to make off the property, right? Because those people are coming in prepaying me, staying for the weekend, and they're paying me $200, $300, $400 a night. And so it doesn't matter what I buy the property for. It matters the people who's going to pay me the money in there. So we need the right people, and we need them to stay a long time. Is this my clicker here? All right, let's see if we can get this figured out here. I did. Okay, do you guys think this is a crazy business? Is it for the crazy? Yeah, it really is. Now, on this next slide, I put the property value at $300,000 on a property. I know you guys aren't here in Toledo on that, but it's kind of a nationwide presentation that I give around. And so I know you're going to say 300,000. You don't buy 300,000 here. But still, it doesn't matter the number. Look at the definition here, and I'll read it to you. This is what we really say. Looking for a business partner who does not have to have any specific skills. They will be given control of a $300,000 or $30,000 asset, plug in your number, without much supervision or training to manage. Okay? The company only hopes you will take care of it and pay a bill once a month. Applicant must also be able to call the company if something goes wrong with the asset. Are we asking too much from people who rent our homes? Are we giving them a whole lot? Right. So do you think that we need to get sloppy on the front end and just let anybody move in? If some people say to you in your onboarding process, you're asking too much, oh my gosh, hey, I'm about to give you a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 asset. I'm going to ask very little of you. You have total control of it. You know, no other industry does this. There's no stockbroker that says, hey, let me give you a portfolio worth $300,000 so you don't have to know anything. Just get online sometimes, push some buttons, right? But we do this. So why are we willing to do this? Why in the real estate market are we willing to give such a expensive asset to somebody who has really not a lot of skin in the game? You ever thought about that? Why wouldn't you give a Lamborghini to somebody for $300,000 and let them take it off the lot and pay you just a little bit of money? We're crazy, right? I think it is because deep down inside we think, okay, it sticks, it's concrete, they're not going to take it anywhere, and it's still going to be there. So we have this comfort that our home's not going anywhere like a car or something else. Agreed? But how much damage can somebody cause you? A lot of damage. Meth house, how much, guys? The whole unit, right? Tough. So we're looking at someone who we're going to talk about who can financially pay the rent, but not only that, is going to take care of the unit, and they're going to show the way they're going to take care of it in the future by looking at the past. All right, so I'm glad to know that I came out here to Ohio, and we all realize we're a bunch of nutty people together. But we're 1/5 of the economy, as Anna said, and that makes us strong and powerful. And the deep down inside, we all know how smart we are for being so quirky, right? All right. So I need some Ohio love. I need somebody to come up here and help me who's not embarrassed, who buys homes and kind of likes to fidget with them, kind of likes to work. You want to come on up, join me? I appreciate that. Can I get a microphone? Awesome. We're just going to have some fun. There's no right or wrong answer. So what's your favorite tool you like to use?
Other people.
Okay. You said hammer, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if I handed you this hammer, how much could you do with that hammer?
A lot, I guess. Not as much as a bigger hammer, I suppose.
Okay, so you would rather me give you this hammer.
Okay.
Could you do more with this hammer than this hammer?
Yeah.
You guys see the difference? 2 hammers? So if you went to Home Depot back here, which I just went and bought these hammers because they wouldn't let me take this on the airplane. I don't know why. And I were to give you a hammer, which one would you pick?
I'd actually need something in between because that would be heavy for me. So
But what could do more work?
I would
If you had to live for a hammer for the rest of your life,
I would go with the big one.
you're going to go with the big one,
Okay,
right? Okay,
yeah.
because I know we're crazy, but I know you're smart, right? Okay, perfect. So how long would this hammer last you? I mean, how many jobs do you think you can do with this hammer? Maybe hang up some pictures? You know, you ever think you'd hurt yourself with something like so small?
Mhm.
You ever do any roofing work?
No.
Anna, you get on the roof sometimes, don't you? You like that hammer, right? That hammer doesn't do you very good. Okay, so here's the cool thing about hammers or tools that we all need is we can tell by looking at them. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. We can tell by looking at them what we need, how good they are. Maybe we don't like wood. Maybe we want to go get, a composite or something, and maybe we have this keeps breaking on us, so we can change and we can find the best hammer out there. Okay, I need one more person to come up who's onboarded or at least showed a property in the last week or two to an applicant. Anyone want to come help me? Come on up, Anna. Okay, Anna, like the hammer, tell me about this applicant. Tell me about when they walked in the door. Tell me about how you felt. Just tell me about the interaction a little bit.
Well, usually they tend to go in 10 million different directions if they've got kids with them.
Okay.
And that makes me a little nervous not because I'm worried about the house, but because I see no control there.
Okay. But familial status, we got to be very careful.
Can't ask.
Right, with any of that, right?
Yep.
Okay. So what do you look for as you're showing the property and you're walking around the living room? This is the living room. This is the kitchen. Tell me what kind of your style is. What do you...
Well, going through, listening, mostly I give questions out and let them answer them. I want to
Okay.
see how they answer them. I just let them talk. If they start telling me how they sued their last 13 landlords because they were all slumlords.
You're next, right? You're next.
I'm going, it
You're
doesn't
number
matter
14 at that point.
Doesn't matter how good
Right.
I am, it's always
Right.
the landlord's fault.
Right.
So,
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
So does personality matter to you?
a lot.
Okay.
For the first time in 50 years of renting, I gave three-day notices to people that I just didn't want to work with anymore.
Okay.
They always had bad things to say. The first words out of their mouth is slumlord. They don't come to me for repairs. They call every other agency first, and then they call me, and I'm going, I don't
Okay.
have a work order.
But was it really their personality is what I'm going to get at? Is it really, are you looking for a certain personality type? And I'm going to say no?
No.
No. No. You're looking for more actions, right?
Right, they're actions.
Because when we look for personalities and we're just trying to match up personalities, we're going to get in a lot of trouble, right? So I know exactly what you're saying because I have those too, right? That they call and they complain and they're the victims, and I'm absolutely looking for that. We're going to talk about how do we get through that showing with that person, and then how do we correctly say thank you, but no thank you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we're done, Anna. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I think what Anna's saying is she wants to make sure she doesn't rent to somebody who is just going to constantly be a heartache and a headache. Have you guys had those tenants? Yes. Right? We're going to talk about how to discover those tenants, but I want to make sure that you're not getting lost in you're looking for a certain personality. And I get this when I talk to people because a lot of times I hear this, oh, my gut feeling. You guys have this gut feeling? Oh, my gut feeling tells me. Is your gut feeling always right? It is? Oh, my gosh. No way. Come on, you're telling me your gut feeling is always right? Do you know that 50% of the time a detective or a psychologist can't tell if someone's lying? 50% of the time, and they're trained individuals. We trust our gut. We want to trust our gut, but are you telling me that everybody you've ever trusted have never let you down? Just tenants. That's what we're talking about today. Okay? So we need a little bit more than personality. What we're really looking for is trust. It's trust. Can I trust you with my asset? Can I trust you to pay the rent? We don't have to be friends. We're not going to dinner on the weekends. We've picked our relationship. Our relationship is landlord, tenant. And guys, some places get offended when I use the word landlord. Are you guys an association that teaches not to use that word? Okay. Forgive me. I came all the way from Arizona. I'm going to ask for one forgiveness tonight, okay? I say landlord, and the only reason is I see it as a smaller owner of 10, 15, 20 homes is a landlord. I see sometimes when we say a housing provider, could be an apartment community, could be something. So I'm going to ask for your forgiveness with that right now. So every time I say that, don't be going, oh my gosh, he doesn't clue in. I'm going to use the word landlord, and I apologize. But we're looking for trust. So how do you know if you can trust somebody? Do applicants lie? But some of you think your gut feeling is going to catch all those lies. Is your gut feeling going to catch all those lies? You're not going to catch all. So tell me about some of the lies that you guys might have heard. Okay. So they told you they paid their rent. They did call my landlord, and you call them, and it's a friend. And the friend's willing to tell you anything, right? Okay. I love that. We're going to get to the application in a little bit and talk about how we can make sure we catch that lie. I always love when they want to tell me a story, like a criminal background before I do the background check. So I'll say something like, hey, we do a credit and criminal back. Oh, but before you do that, I need to tell you a story. Right then, my PI antenna goes, right? Because when are you going to listen to the story? Now. You're going to have to listen to it now. Because once you get my report, there's no listening. We're done, right? So I'll get something where he says, you're going to find a felony narcotics charge against me, but I want to tell you that it wasn't me. I was at this apartment, and there was this noise outside, and boom, bang, and I just cracked the door open, and I looked, and all of a sudden this hand came out and pulled me outside, threw me on the ground, put me in handcuffs. And it was the neighbor. I was just wondering what was going on, and they sucked me into this thing. I had nothing to do with it, right? Well, the advantage I have as being a PI is I'm the guy who's going to do your background. So I'm listening to all this story, right? So I'm like, okay, here we go. Probably going to go to another applicant, but let me run this guy. He paid me to run him. And I came back, hey, you know the story you told me? Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I said, you pled guilty at trial. Yeah, I know, but because my attorney told me that's. Well, that scenario in court is where you tell your story to the jury. That's when you tell your story. That's when you have your excuses. If you can convince the jury that you cracked the door open and they pulled you out, and okay, that's where you tell it. I am not a jury or a judge. I'm a landlord looking at a case, and I can only guess that what they decided, you being guilty, I would have to come to the same conclusion. So when you guys hear this excuse of it's not me or it didn't happen, okay, if they're guilty, you don't have to replay all that. You don't have to ask questions. You don't have to say, tell me more. You just stay away from it and say, I'm sorry. We're moving on to the next applicant. So people will lie to you. Now, how do you know if they're lying? They're breathing, he says. Okay. There are good tenants out there. I don't mean to be dogging on anybody. Vague. No details. I am not lying to you when I said to a guy a few years ago, hey, where are you coming from? And he just points. And I'm like next door or like over a city? Or he didn't want to tell me because he wasn't ready to answer that question. See, a liar will get their story straight, but then when you ask them a question they never thought about, there's telltale signs. We're going to show that here in just a second, okay? So vague is one. Vocal uncertainty, unsure about details. How much is your rent? I think it was like $1,200 or something. I think? Like, you don't know how much your rent was at your past place? He didn't pay it, exactly. And I think I paid it, I'm not sure. Indifference, emotions don't match the story, kind of like you ask them a question when you're showing them the place and it's, what are you laughing at? You know, they're just hemming and hawing, and a lot of times they'll be overthinking. So when you tell a lie, your brain way overthinks versus when you tell the truth. When you tell the truth, it just comes out. I got nothing to hide. When someone catches you, your brain first of all asks itself, do I need to lie? That's the first question your brain's going to ask yourself. Do I need to lie about this? And it takes you a second to have that. So you're going to stall. Should I lie? If I lie, then what should be the lie? So you're going through this in your head. So sometimes people will repeat the question, right? So have you lived here all your life? Have I lived here all my life? Those are signs that you can tell somebody is stalling, repeating. But once again, only 50% of the professionals are going to tell when people actually lie. So I'm going to show you a video. The people are asked to lie. We know they're lying. I'm not going to say, tell me who's the liar. But I want you, when we watch this video, to just see these vague vocal uncertainty and differences in overthinking. And then I'm going to ask you when you saw it, how you saw it, okay? So let's see if we can roll this here. Just say you're
Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic Ocean? One other question. What's the capital of Minnesota? What's the capital of Oregon? What's that? What's the capital of Oregon? Give a shout out to your buddies in Utah. Hey, how you doing, everybody in Utah, family and friends? I wish you all well. See you soon. Hi, Idaho. Miss you guys. Shane from Idaho. Don't worry about it, buddy. Hi, Portland. I love you guys.
Okay. Did you pick up any of those signs, kind of the way they're, right? Just for some guys are not very good at lying. They're just sitting there going, oh my gosh, like, I don't even know where to start. They didn't even want to even, and I love the guy at the end says, too long, and he's stalling, too long, how long is that in his head, So did you guys see anything else in there that just kind of talked about that delay or being vague or a lot of things in there? So like I said, I don't want you guys to do your screening based on, you hooking someone up to this lie detector test by any means, because once again, 50% or less of psychologists and detectives cannot tell when somebody lies. Now, they are usually interviewing someone who's ready to tell a lie, someone who's gone over the story, someone who's committed a crime. I think the people that are coming into our properties to see them really haven't laid out this story that grand. And so you're going to see them a lot of times kind of just be vague. And so just continue to ask detailed questions. That's how you catch them. You continue to ask detailed. Remember, hey, he told the girl, hey, you're from Idaho. Yeah, I'm from Idaho. Her brain inside said, I'm lying, but I'm just repeating what he told me, so I'm being true to myself, and I'm repeating what he told me. Then when he says capital, what's the capital of Idaho? Now it starts, whoa, wait a minute. Now you're really challenging me. So ask detailed questions. And I love Anna when she was up here. She says, I ask a lot of questions, and then you listen. Listen, listen, listen. Okay? This is what it shouldn't look like. Hey, this is a 3-bedroom apartment. This is bedroom number 1, and that's a bathroom. Bedroom number 2. You know what a bedroom looks like, right? They know I hope they know what a bathroom looks like if they're going to be renting from you. Okay? So as you're coming through, I wouldn't be dominating the conversation with what's obvious. I would be having, now listen, this is important, normal and natural conversation. If you do this the wrong way and you're just piping out these just random weird questions, you're going to be weird, okay? So where have you from? And just start dialing in on where have you lived. And I always ask a couple questions. I ask, what are you going to miss from your old place? What are you going to miss? Oh man, we had great neighbors. The neighbors there were amazing, and I'm going to miss my great neighbors. Well, I happen to know the neighbors here too, and I think you're really going to like the neighbors here, right? And then I say, what do you like about this place? What do you like about it? And we have a great conversation. We're going to talk in a little bit about, if I want an applicant to stay for many, many years, I want them to like my house, not any house. What's the difference? Right. They're going to like your house. They're going to like either the neighborhood. Maybe their kids go to the schools. Maybe they needed that 4-bedroom. They're coming from a 3-bedroom, and they're going to grow into your house. Maybe we want to make sure that this person is going to be in your home for 2, 3, 4. My goal is 5 years. Okay? 5 years. Because the fact is, if you times your rent by 12, but you turn that property every single year, the national average is $5,000 a turn. I mean, we're going to lose 1 month's rent automatically. That's out the door, right? Very rarely they leave on the 31st and the next guy walks in on the 1st. I've done it. I've had it, but there's usually a lag there. And so we're going to lose some money in rent. We're going to probably have to maybe clean some floors, do some painting. And one might cost you $2,000, $3,000, and one might cost you $7,000. But the national average is $5,000. If you're doing a turn every year, and you got all of your rent, okay, you're still paying that $5,000 turn, but if we can get them to stay for 5 years and we don't have those turns, then look at this. We make $25,000 more dollars on that investment. Now, you seasoned landlords are going, yeah, we know, okay? But we want to get the right people, but we want the right people to also to stay. Is there any reason you guys wouldn't want someone to stay if they're paying your rent? Okay, let me run this scenario by you. I had a water heater go out in one of my long-term rentals, and the plumber comes back to me. He's a friend of mine. He says, Dave, you've got a problem over there. I said, yeah. He said, I had to make a trail to get to the water heater. You've got hoarders. I said, okay, it's a pretty nice home. It's probably worth $400,000. He's like, so you're probably going to go do something about that right now, right? I'm like, yeah, no. I'm not going to do anything right now about it. And what goes through my mind? My mind is this. They have been there for 10 years. They have paid every single payment to me. When they have an issue that's inside the house, this was in the garage, somehow they always fix it, send me the receipts, and pay half. I'm like, I like that, right? They don't want me in there. Now, if I go start giving notices today and clean them out today, I have a problem today. But how many more months of rent do you think I can get out of these guys? Many, many more. I've got a hoarder situation coming up at one of my rentals. Do I have to deal with it today? Not as long as they're paying. So just pay the rent. I understand. You know, but when someone's been there for 10, 15 years, I'm going to have new paint. I'm going to have new flooring anyways, you know. So I'll deal with that. So time for me is so important. If these guys stay for another 5 years, that will have paid off half of that home. Steph, that home was $230 when we bought it, I think. Will pay off half of that home for me. And yet I still own it. That's the great thing about this business. So anyways, let's get back to the right people, though. So what can we do to find the right business partner that will stay? How many of you know what a rental criteria is? I should have every hand up in this. It is absolutely what you have to have nowadays, even before you put your property on Zillow or show it to anybody. You have to know your criteria says what I'm looking for. Why would you show your property if you don't know what you're looking for? And we're going to go through a criteria tonight to get you guys an idea, and then you guys can email back, and we'll actually send you the criteria if you want just a sample criteria, because you're going to need a criteria. So if you do anything tonight, you don't have a criteria, you need to establish a detailed criteria after tonight. And we're going to go through this. If you're like, Dave, a criteria, you're going to know what a criteria is when we get done. Okay. How about targeting the right applicants on your online ads? You want someone who wants your property. We've talked about that. So how do you make your online ads show the good things of your property and what you're looking for? Right. Okay? So we're also going to, this is kind of the layout of what we're going to talk about now. We're also going to talk about diligently screening their ability to pay and their income. That includes the credit check. We're going to talk real quick about checking with past landlords or resources to check their payment history. We're going to make sure you do not have a career criminal who destroys your rental. You know, some people talk to me after conferences or call me and say, Dave, you're anti-criminal. I said, I'm not anti-criminal. Guys, when I was 16 years old, I got caught shoplifting, arrested, taken to the jail at 16. I did. I'm standing up in front of you as a PI. I'm 51 years old. That was 16. Do the math. 35 years ago. And that was the best thing that could ever happen to me. I really quickly learned in my life that if I did something wrong, I have consequences to pay. At 16 years old, I had to pay for the sweater I stole. I didn't get the sweater, and I spent 40 hours at the food bank. Okay? Would you guys want me as a renter today? Would you trust that I would pay? I'd have to be screened. but you're not going to see that juvenile record either, right? But what if I was 21 and you saw a shoplifting charge at 21, I'm 51, and I haven't done anything since then? That's why we go back 7 years. I'm not anti-criminal. I actually love it when someone gets in trouble, learns the lesson, and takes their life to a better place, right? I want to save you guys from the person who is selling meth on the corner and then is doing robberies at night to support his meth, and then he gets busted 3 different times, and he still has more charges, and for some reason didn't learn his lesson. So when I talk about criminal history tonight, I'm not talking about the person who got in trouble and made their life better. Congratulations, that's awesome. But when we look at about 60% recidivism rates, meaning 60% of people who get out of prison go back to prison within 3 years. When we look at repeat offenders, we have to do these criminal backgrounds. Now, there are plenty of cities like Seattle out there that says, landlords, you can't do criminal backgrounds. There's cities like Chicago that says you can do an income background first, and then you have to offer the unit, and you can do the criminal background check second. They want to get in the middle of it. There's cities like Louisville, Kentucky, who says if you have a criminal history, you are a protected class. Can't use it. Then I called the city of Louisville, and I said, hey, do you guys do background checks when you hire people for the city? Oh, yeah. We want the best people representing the city of Louisville for our constituents. But you're not letting landlords do it. We're not? No. So our attorneys then called the city attorney, and he's like, what, are you going to sue me over this? And we're like, no, it's just dumb policy. He's like, I'm not really going to enforce this. This is just something we want to do. And then at the very end of the legislation, they said, if at any time a landlord feels, I'm paraphrasing, if any time a landlord feels like they're put in any jeopardy or there's any problems, they can deny for criminal background history. But the bill starts really hard and then gives us one little caveat at the end that they're hoping that everybody, and then when they publish their pamphlets and they hand their pamphlets out at their RIAs and all that stuff, they leave that section out. They don't put that section in until we break it down. But anyways, so, okay, rental criteria. If you don't have a rental criteria, the first person that applies with you is approved. And you're like, no, Dave, that's not true. I'm telling you, in today's legal world with HUD, with fair housing, if you do not have a criteria, the first person that says, I want your property gets it. Does that scare you guys? Any questions on that? Do you believe me? Okay. Why do you think HUD wants us to have a criteria, for those of you who know what a criteria is? So we treat everybody fairly or the same, okay? Which is interesting, and we can talk about this a little later, but then they come out and say, we want you to do an individual assessment on everybody. So they tell us to treat everybody the same, but if we find criminal history, we have to do an individual assessment on everybody. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. They've got us a little bit, I think they're a little confused themselves, but okay. So if I don't have a criteria and I say credit score of, say, 650 is approved, 600 is conditional, meaning you might still be approved, but under 600, I'm sorry, I don't accept that person. If I don't have that in a criteria, then somebody can come with a 500 score, and I'm sorry, it's not in your criteria, they're approved. When there's 0 criteria, that means everybody gets to move in. Okay. So in our criteria, we're going to talk about evictions, judgments, liens. Okay? Eviction, judgments, and liens. That's interesting. Did you know 2 years ago, the credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, they took off all evictions, judgments, and liens off the credit bureaus. And that's where most screening companies used to get their data. We had to go to another source so we can still provide them at our company. But they took it off. And the reason they took it off is because we considered eviction, judgments, and liens civil court. It's called civil court, okay? Not criminal. Now, in criminal court, we get a name and we get a date of birth. And we match the two together and we say, most likely, this is this John Smith. Okay? There's a million John Smiths, right? But we take a date of birth, we take an address cross-reference, and we say, okay. But in civil, and when you guys file your evictions here, you don't put a social security number and you don't put a date of birth. So if I'm looking for an eviction for John Smith to put on the right John Smith's credit bureau, do you think Experian or TransUnion's making mistakes? And who gets sued? The people that if you put the wrong eviction on my credit bureau, you said I had an eviction, like David Pickron, I had an eviction, and I didn't, you think I'm suing him? Absolutely, I'm saying, hey, you put the wrong record. Now, how many of you heard the last name Pickron ever? Have you guys ever heard the last name Pickron? Where's that? It's German? What is Pickron? There's 108 David Pickrons in the United States. If you go back and search me online, you will tell that I have a pretty extensive criminal history. I'm 33 years old in Dallas, Texas. You're going to find that I overdosed on drugs, and this was kind of weird. This guy even had my same middle name, Alan. So here I'm looking at an obituary with my full name on it, out in Florida. So when we are doing criminal backgrounds, it's hard for us sometimes. Some people think it's a science. It is an art for me to tell you that your applicant is the one that this record belongs to, because people have so many of the same names. Do I have any NFL fans out there last night? Or last night? Any NFL fans right now? Okay, what happened this weekend in the Buffalo Bills game that they kept making a big deal about? Does anybody know? Josh Allen, who's the quarterback, gets tackled or sacked by Josh Allen. Okay? How many people are on NFL teams and there's 2 Josh Allens? You see what I mean? There is a lot of people with the similar names out there. And so we struggle with these civils, at least the credit bureaus do with these civils. So, but we need to still discuss evictions, judgments, and liens. We need to talk about how do we feel about collections, how do we feel about credit scores, how do we feel about criminal records, income, rental history, and we need to disclose policies on our criteria like smoking, pets, etc. You guys ready to look at one that's actually live and a sample? Okay. This is the first page. I know it looks long, and I know you probably can't read it. But let me start under criminal, and it says, any felony relating to or regarding a person, property, drug-related criminal activity in the past 7 years from the date of this investigation to the date of the conviction, release from custody, or parole, whichever occurs last. These sentences in these criteria are written by these attorneys in a certain way that covers us. Because if we said, hey, you just can't have a criminal history in the last 7 years, what date are we going to go off of? Right? There's different dates in a criminal history. There's one where you commit the crime, and then there's one where you say I'm not guilty or guilty, and then there's one where the judge says the disposition date is you're guilty or you're not guilty. What date do you go off of? The reason the attorneys word this the way they worded it is if you had somebody show up to your property and say, and you gave them this criteria, and they're looking it over, and they're like, great, hey, listen, I just got out of prison, committed a crime 9 years ago, haven't committed a crime since. I'm in. Right? So we put some stuff in here. It talks about at 7 years from the end of parole, 7 years from the release of prison. It gives us time, because why do you think we do that? We want to know what about people? We want to know they're in public. They have the opportunity to reoffend. They can't reoffend in prison. We want to know, okay, you're out of prison, you're amongst us, and you've gotten your life together. We're good. Or, hey, you reoffended and recommitted. So, like I said, this is hard to read in front of this class here. I will send this to you. If you guys send an email to info@rentperfect.com, that's info@rentperfect.com. Just say, hey, I'd like a copy of a sample criteria. But this talks about eviction criteria. How do you guys feel if you had someone come to you and my report comes back and says they had an eviction 3 years ago? I'm not group thinking here. I'm just thinking, ask yourself that question. Did not pay a landlord. It's still an open eviction from 3 years ago. Does that bother you? It might, but maybe if you have a property in a certain part of town and everybody has an eviction, especially as a code, you might say, I'm going to go down to 1 year. I'm going to go down to 2 years. Our job at Rent Perfect isn't to get you to have a certain criteria. Ours is just to make sure you have a criteria and that you stick to it. We don't care. We do work with all kinds of people. We do work where their goal for some clients of ours is to take people out of prison and get them back into the community and help them be positive citizens. when we send back the criminal history, they don't even care. Yeah, we know. We know. That's our goal. I don't know what your guys' goals are. I don't need to know. Our system just lets you set it up the way you want to set up your portfolio, and then it just keeps you with your criteria. It keeps you treating everybody the same. So when we send out what we call an invite, so someone says, hey, I'd like to apply at your property, we send out this online link that lets them do an online application. It comes with the criteria, and it says, here's the criteria. Read the criteria before you apply. This criteria can be so powerful. A lot of landlords don't realize how powerful this is. This is what's going to say no dogs, no smoking. Have you guys ever got like in the onboarding process and you're well on your way in the onboarding process and the guy looks at you and says, oh, I forgot to tell you I have a dog. Do you care? And you're like so deep into it. You're like, I've turned down 3 other people who've called me. We not discuss no pets or smoking? This criteria, when you give it out at the showing and when you send it to them on the invite through the Rent Perfect system, it makes sure we're all on the same page, okay? And then, if you come back and have to deny them because they didn't meet your criteria, you say, well, wait a minute, I gave you my criteria. You either thought you would get away with it, right? Or you lied to me because I told you if you had a criminal history in the last 7 years, a felony, drug, whatever, that you wouldn't apply, and you still went for it. You still paid the money, so I don't feel too bad. I gave you every opportunity to say, you know what, let me go look at another place. This might not be for me. This criteria is huge, and you need to each be using this criteria. Inside the Rent Perfect system, we'll set this up. Our system will help you set this up for you so you can stay totally consistent. I also have tenant advisories in mind that I tell them, we shouldn't have to tell them that, but I tell them in their criteria, review your residential lease. Should we have to tell them that? But guess why I put it there? Because if I'm in an eviction court and they're trying to paint me as this landlord, I didn't even read the lease and they rushed me into signing it. Your Honor, I gave them a criteria sheet and I said, you need to read your lease. I can't make him do it. He's going to say, oh, this is a landlord who's treating this like a business, right? You know, these apartment communities, the attorneys come in and they all treat it like a business, and these judges, man, they go, okay, and they give judgments all over the place. But when an individual landlord comes in, the judge is looking, do these guys treat this like a business, or are they running this willy-nilly? Stuff like this is going to show a judge, I run a business, okay? So can't stress how important that is. And then we also talk about if we find any kind of fraud or identification issues. See, when someone has a criminal history and we're finding it and they get denied, do you know what they do? They say, hey, to one landlord, they'll say, hey, that's not my criminal history. And then the landlord will say, well, it matches your date of birth. Matches my date of birth. Okay, wait, when I apply again, what do I need to change? My date of birth. Spelling of my name. Turn the Social Security around a little bit. Heck, I have 4 Social Security cards at home because I have 4 kids that I got Social Security cards when they were born. Let me start using one of those. Okay? So we see not just criminal history, we see a lot of fraud and a lot of people trying to beat our system. Now, when an applicant comes into our system, they get these 4 out-of-pocket questions. Are you guys familiar with those? The banks use them, you know, hey, where have you lived? What have you guys have seen those questions, right? They're not infallible. I mean, people can beat them. They're not infallible, but that at least gives people questions to answer, and it takes them through this identity verification process that blocks them. So they'll fail those with us. And then they'll call the landlord and they'll say, that Rent Perfect system's no good. I can't even get through it. And the landlord sometimes calls me and says, hey, your system's messed up. My tenant can't get through it. Oh, no, I know they can't get through it. They're not supposed to get through it because they're giving us false information. Oh, so your system actually works. Yes. We went from a call where my system didn't work to actually our system is working. So they will try to change information on us, so make sure that's another part of the background that we got to make sure we cover ourselves on. And then if you guys ever deny someone, you need to send an adverse action letter. If you need any of those sample adverse action letters, we can send those to you too. But an adverse action letter says, hey, I'm sorry, you didn't meet our criteria, we cannot rent to you. And it actually has like all this required federal law of their rights. Your rights getting denied, what you can get, you can contact a screening company, you can pull your credit report. The federal government wants them to clear up things that are getting them declined, and you have to send this adverse action letter. Once again, through Rent Perfect, you push a button, it sends the adverse action letter off. The biggest issue that I see with adverse action letters is if someone applies with you and you say, okay, you're kind of in this conditional mode, I could go one way or the other, but if you get a cosigner, then you're approved. You guys ever use cosigners? Okay. What you're really saying is you're not approved by yourself. You're actually declined by yourself. So you actually have to give them an adverse action by letter by law. And then you turn around and reapply with the cosigner, and now you can move in. So you actually could end up giving an adverse action letter to someone who moves into your property. By law, you're required to do that. All right. Okay, I always keep saying we are looking for an applicant that wants our rental, not any rental. Okay, hopefully we've discussed that right now. But how do we get somebody who wants our rental? Guys, what do you think an applicant goes through when they're like, I've got to find a new rental? Is there some anxiety? Have you ever put yourself in their shoes? Have you gone hunting? I'll tell you what, how many of you have rented a VRBO or Airbnb? How many of you shop for one and you're looking at every picture and you're looking at the map and is it close to where I'm visiting? And then you're like, yes, yes, yes. Okay, maybe I'll book it later. Okay, maybe I'll come back. Maybe you go back and do it 2 or 3 times. Just to book a vacation rental for the weekend can cause us some anxiety sometimes. So we have to understand kind of what they're going through, and we kind of have to tell a story about our property. Code word. This is something I've been teaching a lot of people don't know about. But I want to tell you a little bit of secret. How many of you post on Zillow? Okay. Whether it's Zillow or online, I love using a code word. Let me tell you what a code word is. One of the properties that I have, I short-term rental it to some winter visitors in Arizona, January, February, and March. And they pay me $5,000 a month. Then I have these 9 months of open unit. But I don't want it booked for next January, February, March, because that's where I'm getting all my money, right? So I started using this code words for that, and then I actually started using it for my long-term too. And I then started putting at the end of a paragraph, so paragraph, this 3-bedroom, 2-bath, sits on a golf course, with the, you start going through your little flowery paragraph, and at the end, I put, I will not respond to you unless you tell me you know this is a short-term rental only available till December 31st, 2021. Okay? So those of you who use Zillow or online, you might get these applicants, and all of a sudden you put one on and you got 30 coming in. You guys know what I'm talking about? Why do you think you have 30 coming in? Yeah. They're paying Zillow $30 to apply, do their application, and they're allowed to submit their application to as many landlords as they want in the next 30 days. So do you think there's people out there who want any rental? So what are they doing? Boom, 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 boom. Do you want to waste your time with that person? That's why you want someone who wants your rental. So I'll have people then say, hey, I want to view your rental. I understand it's only available that, and then they go on, I find they go on. That actually works perfect for me because I'm just moving to Phoenix and I'm buying a house, and this gives me some time to find it. Now I'm going to meet a person at the place, and before I even see them in person, I know we're on the same page. Okay? I know we're on the same page. So, one of the code words I've been using on my long term, and I'm going to jump ahead in the presentation when we get to it, I'll skip over it because we're going to talk about it now, is I asked for 12 months worth of bank statements right now. What do you guys think about that? I'm a private investigator. I love hardcore data. And if I can't find eviction data, and I can't trust landlords who've been sitting with someone in their home for 5 months not paying to give me a right? I've got to go somewhere where I'm saying, prove to me you've paid your rent. I don't even care if you were on unemployment. I don't care if your church helped you. This were some tough times. I had some tenants lose, their jobs, lose their source of income, and they found a way to still get me paid. All I want to see is you paid your landlord. 12 months of bank statements is so easy on the phones nowadays to get on the phone and send away 12 months. And some people might say, Dave, that's too much to ask. Is it? How many of you bought properties before 2008 on stated income? Right? We walk into the bank, I make all kinds of money, just give me the home. That got us in a lot of problems, right? So now when your mortgage company on one of your rentals or your homes asks you for 12 months worth of bank statements, what do you guys do? You jump as quickly as you can. I'll get it right over to you. Don't we want to find right now somebody who shows us they're not afraid to go work? They're not afraid to jump through a few hoops? Because the federal government came out and hijacked some of our properties. They took it over. You're backed by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, your governors, whatever. They came back and said, we're going to seize your property. And by the way, people, you don't have to pay. You're responsible to pay, but you don't have to pay. And so they hear, don't pay. Okay? So the next time the next coronavirus comes through, the next time a hurricane, an earthquake, what do you think they're going to go to again? Until the Supreme Court says you cannot take a landlord's property, they're going to do the same thing. And if that happens, which tenants do you want in your places? The ones that'll jump through extra hoops? The ones who will go down and fill out their assistant forms? In Phoenix, I have clients who are telling me that, Dave, we bring the forms to the tenant. We're doing everything, but in Arizona, the tenant has to apply. I don't know how it is in Ohio. They won't go apply. They won't go apply. No, I'm not gonna, you're not paying me rent. I need to get some money. Yeah, we're not applying. I want someone right now in my rentals who's willing to jump through hoops, and if you're not willing to give me 12 months bank statements, goodbye. I'll go find the next guy. So the code word I put on there is, I understand that I'll have to provide 12 months worth of bank statements.
They don't reply by saying they understand.
Then I don't even reply to their reply to me. Make sense? Okay, because I don't want to have to go meet somebody. Hey, Greg, you like the place? Hey, will you give me 12 months bank statements? No. Oh, man, why are we even here? I want to know that someone's going to give that before, because right now, people are saying in their head, okay, wait, this landlord's asking for 12 months worth of bank statements. Am I going to be able to prove by my bank statements if I paid rent? No, I didn't pay rent. So I'm not going to want to give them those because I can't prove it. So I'm not even going to apply. I didn't lose someone who didn't apply at my property. I lost the problem. So since Zillow's saying $30, you can apply to everybody's, we have to get smart at landlords and say, no, we only want people who are serious inquiries only, who can pass my criteria. Now, stay away from the protected classes. You don't want to touch any of that online. This place is great for families. You want to stay away from all that, but you can use things like bank statements or qualifications and use that as your code word online. This is like my little nugget that I found about 2 years ago that I just love. In fact, when I'm writing my ads, I'm like, I can't wait till I get to my code word, because it helps me, and it saves me a lot of time. I have great pictures. Show the property in person. When COVID first came out, this Rently and a lot of companies were going around and saying, listen, lockbox it, send them there without you, talk to them later. And if that's your style and you love that and that works for you, that's fantastic. But where are we going to go find out if they're lying to us? Where are we going to go interview them? If I'm going to hand someone a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 asset here in Ohio, it's like dating. I want to meet them. I want to have this first impression. Anna, you were telling us how important that is, right? When I hear, how, like if I say, hey, aren't you going to miss the most out of your last rental? That's what I'm trying to say. And they say, oh, that landlord, he never fixes nothing. I know I'm just the next one. I'm the next one. You know, they've told me, you know, he never returns my phone calls. Well, there's probably a point after 30 phone calls and just being cantankerous that I'm not going to return your phone calls. I have my limits. My job is to return your phone calls, to keep you in for 5 years, get the right tenant. I make money. I make money when you're in there. But if you're going to be a pain in my butt and blow my phone up over stuff, then maybe I might not answer your phone call either. So they never tell their side of the story. Okay, so I always say show the property in person. That's up to you guys and your style, but I would always have someone go with you for safety reasons, a second person. And then watch for red flags, guys. This is where I want you to become property investigators. I'm a private investigator, but I want you guys to become property investigators. I want you to watch for red flags. So what are some of the red flags that you guys have seen where you know, okay, trouble is on the horizon? They what? Their kids just running crazy. Okay. Anything else? Yeah, like the U-Haul truck is sitting outside. Like, who packs up and then looks for a place to move? Exactly, that's the one. Yeah. Okay, so you. Their story, right? So we start hearing too many stories, yeah. Totally. Been in a hotel for 2 months. I always like the guy, too, that asks me questions about my life and wants to get super close to me. Oh, so how many kids do you have? Doesn't matter. I'm not the one qualifying for this place, right? I don't say that, but, you know, I'm looking for the, oh, so what sports does your daughter play? Oh, my daughter plays sports, too. Oh, hey, maybe we could get together. So, no. I'm just trying to rent out a house here. So don't let them buddy up to you, because what they're trying to do is when you see the history, you're like, oh, they're a nice guy. I'll help them out. And I think all of us, and there are special personality types that want to help people. I want to help people. Believe it or not, I'm pretty much to the point and forward, but the reality is I want to help people. Deep down inside, I would love to help people, but I do that outside of my business. I don't do that inside my business. Because if Steph and I start going out with our renters and all of a sudden coronavirus hits and someone loses a job, who are they coming to pay the rent? That's a bad situation to be in, right? They need to go to their family, go to their church, go to the city that has programs for them. I have my own family and my own problems as a landlord. I don't need anybody else's. Is that harsh? Okay. I think so. All right, so watch for those red flags. And then obviously have your rental criteria ready to give to anybody that says, hey, I think I'd like to qualify for this. Say, okay, this is what I'm looking for. Hand them the rental criteria. We'll also send it out to them through the Rent Perfect system. So, and then pre-screening with an application fee. I used to always show my property, and then I was kind of like never really high pressure, like commit now. I'd say, go home, think about it. Because when you say yes to me, I want to really have a deal. I don't want you to say yes to me and then you go home and that other property called you were looking at, and then, well, I told you yes, but now I'm looking at this other. Listen, you go home and you decide this is the place you want, give me a call. So then they would call and say, okay, Dave, send me the application. This is before I developed the Rent Perfect system. Send me the application. So, okay, was that at home on my computer? Okay, so I'll scan it in, and what's your email address? And I'd write it down, and then I'd go scan it, and then they'd get it. And then there was never time for me to get that application fee, because I don't carry like a credit card scanner on. It's always like, okay, well, I'll go pick up the application, have a $35 check with it. And I found that I was spending 2 days just to get an application. With the Rent Perfect system, they're like, hey, I want it. I put in their cell phone number, sends them a text. I put in their email, sends them an email with an online link. They fill out an online application. They pay the application fee right online to me directly, not to you. And some of you might say, well, I want an application fee. You don't. Let me tell you why you don't. Because when they pay me the application fee, who's my client? Your tenant. Who's calling me for customer service? Who's calling me for all kinds of stuff? Who ran the background check on them? I ran it, but they really ran it on themselves. You didn't run it on themselves. You sent the invitation to apply, and now they came back and said, I'm suing you. You ran my credit without my permission. I didn't run anything. You just shared all your information with me as a landlord, as if you walked in and physically handed it to me. See, it's a change. We're no longer going to run background checks on people. They're going to run it on themselves, and then they're going to share it with us. And if they don't want to share it with us, move on down the road. Not a big deal, okay? So that's part of the rent perfect system there. All right. So can they pay? Yes? Yeah, it is. It's all behind a firewall, yeah. Yeah, we have thousands and thousands of transactions. We're not a small company, so we got the full IT team and everything. So, okay, so how are they going to pay you rent? And I'm doing a terrible job letting them have the microphone. I apologize for that. We talked about one-year bank statements. That's kind of really the main thing right here. Verification of employment or other income. Guys, have you called around to do employment verification for Walmart lately? Anybody for Taco Bell, McDonald's? Do we not do that anymore? Do you know what you're running into nowadays? You can call the work number, which we have hired, and pay them $55, and they will tell you when they started and if they still work there, and that's it for $55. You know what companies just did? We don't want to pay somebody to answer the phone and do verifications. It's a waste of our time. There's nothing in it for us. So let's get the work number, which is owned by one of the credit bureaus. No, not Transient Experian. What's the third one? Equifax, sorry. Thank you. Owned by Equifax. And they're just now taking $55 to tell you when they started and if they still work there. Okay? Yeah. So, we want to know length and stability of the steady income. So if the work number is going to charge us $55, we're not going to pay it, we're not going to see it, how can we get that information? Paycheck stubs. Now, remember, we got one other thing we've already asked for too. And we were going to check rent for that. But what else are we going to check it for? Bank statements. Money coming in. So paycheck stub, I see the money, $753. $753 comes into the bank account. Now all of a sudden you've got power. We don't need the work number. We don't need someone to answer the phone. Okay? Now some of you out there might say, well, my guys pay cash. Hey, I'm sorry. If that's the way you guys do it, you do have a problem there and you're not able to verify it, but that's the way you manage. That's the way you manage. You can make probably a lot of money doing it that way. So this isn't for everybody, but everybody I rent to has to have a bank. They first of all have to have a credit card so they can pay the rent perfect system. And they have to have a bank account to show me money coming in and money coming out. Okay? So last 4 paychecks or other verifiable proof. I get more than one. It's easy to fake one. If you guys go online, buy fake paycheck stub, you can see it all day long online. Okay? But when you ask for 4, you look at the year to date and you start tracking. So if someone hands you a paycheck stub in November, they said, I've worked there all year long, and their year-to-date is $1,200. That tells you right there they haven't been working there very long. I like later in the year kind of stuff. So if it's January, I'll jump back to say, give me last year's paycheck stub to December's. Say of 2020 last year, I would jump back into December's paycheck stubs to do that. So we can still get the data. We just got to work a little harder, but what we're really doing is we're making them work a little harder. So by the way, when they apply with Rent Perfect, they upload a copy of their driver's license. They load a copy of their paycheck. They upload copies of their bank statements. All of it is accumulated within our system. So you're not doing stuff outside of our system. You're just calling them and saying, hey, you only uploaded 6 months worth of bank statements. I need 12. Go back in there, and they log back into there. They have a little portal, and they upload their stuff into it. So you have it, and we keep that stuff for you for years and years and years and years. Okay, I threw away my manila folders. Everything's online, digital, saved. I have access to it everywhere I go. Tell you one story real quick. I was I had a turn. And remember I talked about it's very rarely to have someone go out on the 31st and then have someone else move in on the 1st? I had this situation happen to me. And so the night of the 31st, I'm like, I'm going to meet you over there. When you're done moving out, I'm going to inspect the place. I actually have someone moving in the next morning. I don't recommend it. A lot of pressure. And I walked into the house, and the carpets were cleaned, and it was as good as when they got it. Never happens. Because I'm thinking I'm pulling an all-nighter tonight. You know, I'm so frustrated. I walk in, I'm like, oh, this place looks great. So I said, and I don't recommend doing this. Sometimes us landlords make mistakes. I'm kind of a hypocrite sometimes. I do stuff I teach not to do. In this case, I did. I got out my checkbook, and I said, I really appreciate you saving me this time tonight. I'm going to give you your full deposit back right now. I didn't wait, so forgive me. I'm honest. At least I'm honest. And I wrote out and I gave him back $1,200. And he grabbed it and he said, looked at it and he said, oh, hey, I really appreciate this, but 5 years ago, you only made me pay you a $500 deposit. I did? What happened 12 years ago? I was so nice on the $500. Well, give me that check back, right? Because I didn't have all of my stuff on my phone. It was at home in a filing cabinet. I don't remember what I did 5 years ago. Do you guys remember what you did 5 years ago? Some of you young guys probably do, but I don't. I'm old. I need it right here. And there are so many times I just pull up my lease now, deposit, double check. Okay, great. And I have it right all on my phone. It's changed my life. It saved me that day $700. So anyways, it's nice to have that. Are any of you guys taking vouchers or Section 8 at all? Okay. You treat those no different than a regular rental. You still have a criteria. You still have, just because the government is going to pay the financials, it doesn't mean that you don't do a criminal background check on them. Because if you think the government is doing a criminal background check on Section 8, you are wrong, wrong, wrong. I mean, I laugh because anytime there's a mass shooting, we always hear, the background check system's broken. Do you guys ever hear that? Everything the government touches, guys, sorry, especially in the background world, is broken. The way the background system is set up in the United States is every state owns its own repository. They are responsible for their own. Ohio has their own. Ohio doesn't have to share theirs. They don't have to send it to the FBI and to what they call the III system. They have agreements to do it, but they don't have to. States own their data. So New York says, okay, listen, we'll share to the III system, but the FBI can only use it if you're doing backgrounds on New York people. If you're doing a background on an Ohio person, you cannot use New York data. Okay? And their system is all voluntary. It's not required. So the police officers who really use the government background systems, who are pulling people over and putting in their driver's license or their license plates, their life's depending on it. They're walking up to that car, right? So they're running people. So when they arrest somebody, they put the arrest record into what they call the III system. But when it goes through the court system now, the prosecutors, they never get those dispositions back into that database. So the reality is the government has a ton of arrest records. That's all they have. If any of you have ever gone for top clearance, top security clearance, how long does that take? Up to a year. You're like, Dave, you get me back a background in 4 to 6 hours. The government takes a year. They're taking all those arrest records and then they're sending guys out to interview, and it's taking them a year to do this background. If you just went directly to the courts like we did and get the dispositions, I don't have to send a guy out to talk to anybody. I can tell you what happened in that case. Okay? So my point is, if you're doing Section 8 housing, do everything we talked about the exact same way. All right? You might not need to get bank statements. You might want to for the little portion that they're going to pay, but it's up to you. But treat the criminal side of it the same. Rental history, we're going old school a little bit. Proof of rent payments, once again, we're back to bank statements. Verification should go back to landlords. If you're that landlord that has to call, go back to landlords. Obviously, that's the one that has no problem telling you anything. But still, there's so much hearsay between two human beings. You want concrete evidence, and you don't really do that in a phone call. We don't. We used to, until my clients kept calling me and saying, is that done? Is it done? Is it done? And I kept saying, I'm waiting on them. I'm waiting on them. No. So if you were to do a landlord verification for a tenant that you had, would you like call me back right away and say, Dave, I really want to get this done for you? Or would you be like, yeah, I'll get to it when I get to it? You know what I mean? And it set me up for failure. So you're on your own in those. That's why I'm telling you, bank statements, ditch the phone calls, personally what I do. Okay? If I ever have any questions, if someone's lived at a place, I'll ask for a piece of mail. So this comes where I'm seeing an application and I'm like, where's your past landlord? And it's, I live with my parents. Yes, Anna? So in the Rent Perfect system, what Anna's talking about is we'll tell you everywhere that they've lived, and we'll give you actually a sheet that you can send to the landlord, and we give you so much data. Honestly, I don't have to call past landlords myself. And I don't know if you do or don't, but I get so much data that I don't have to do it myself. So, but guys, lives with parents. You guys ever see that? What do you think about it? Okay, 18 years old. That makes sense. 40? Okay, not passing judgment. There's just a story I need to verify, right? There's just one more question I need to ask. You know, maybe you moved in and you're putting your parents in an assisted living home and you're getting the house ready to sell, and that's all legit. But if you've been living with your parents for the last 4 or 5 years and you're 40 and they might be the only one that will take you. And now you're coming to me because even they said no longer, right? Just need to ask questions. So I always just get a piece of mail because I can say, hey, I live with my parents and not really live with my parents. I just don't want you to look where my past landlord was or my past address. Okay? So that's why I say, well, give me a piece of mail then. Love to see that. And they never come back with it when I have that inkling. Okay, so how do we keep the right business partner on? Notice I call them business partners. They're our business partner, guys. They're not just tenants. We're working together. They got a home over their head, and I'm getting paid. Business partner. They deserve respect, right? I just got to find the right one. So offer online rent payments to them nowadays. This younger generation doesn't carry checkbooks. They don't want to write you. You don't want to give them your account number to go down to the bank and direct deposit. What if you rent $600 and I put in $400? Do you have any issues in Ohio with that? In Arizona, we do. Do you guys ever have to return partial payments or anything here? Isn't that great? If your system you're using is like ours, we say, rent's due in 5 days. Rent's due in 4 days. Rent's due in 3 days. Rent is now on their mind on the 25th. Rent's due today. Rent was due yesterday, is now considered late. Rent's due, and now there's a $50 late charge. They're seeing this. I don't have to call them, hey, where's the rent? Every day, the system twice a day is telling them exactly where they're at with their rent. My rents, no problems, have just gotten way better. Online rent pay is the way to go. If you don't use Rent Perfect, use somebody's online rent pay. And it's free to you. Okay. How do you guys feel? I listen to some people and they say you should up your rental fees, your lease every year. How do you guys feel like that? This is personal preference. I'm not going to tell you which way to do it. I know the way I do it, but I'm just getting the discussion amongst landlords out there. You leave it alone? Okay. Anybody else have a thought on this? Anna? Okay. But in the meantime, you try to relatively keep. So would you say you're under market on a lot of your properties? Okay. Is that a bad place to be, though? You don't have that $5,000 turn, right? Okay. Yes. It does make a decision. I'm not an every year raiser. I mean, I'll look at it, and if you're under market, I always keep them under market. And the reason that my strategy is for that is because if they start calling me too much for like maintenance calls, and I'm like, now guys, if I got to come over and do this a lot, I am going to have to raise the rent. I do use that as a tool. Okay. And it seems to work for both of us. They want to keep their monthly rent down, and I don't want them to think that I'm their maintenance man that has to change every, bulb that's out in their light. So, yeah. Nice. Maybe a way of saying thank you, right? Okay. There are benefits to being under market. Report rent payments to credit bureaus helps their credit score. Rent Perfect, if they pay through our rent system, we report it to the credit bureaus. Okay, so we give your tenants a little bit of credit. And maybe you might say, well, I don't want them to get credit. Then they're going to go buy a house. There are plenty of renters out there. If someone wants to buy a house, let's help them buy a house. Chances are they lived with you a long time and paid off your mortgage. Another way just to say thank you in this business partner relationship. And then say thank you every once in a while with an upgrade to your rental. Do you guys do that? So I didn't miss any rent over COVID, thank goodness. And so Steph and I, we put in some granite countertops in one place. We put in some new flooring in one place. I wanted to give them a benefit, but I wanted it to raise my property value too, so I was a little selfish in my gift, and I made it work for both of us, because I was probably going to do that when they moved out anyways. So don't be afraid just to say, hey, thank you, appreciate it, because you want to keep them for how many years? 5 ever? Yeah, 5 ever. Awesome. All right, I'm almost done. I know it's getting late. What do you guys see right here? See what? Dancing? You feel happy? Who is that? That's the landlord. That's a landlord that uses Rent Perfect right there. Got my rent paid. Okay? A lot of people see that as tenants, and you can, but that's the landlord. We make it easy. We make it seamless. We organize you. You pay 95 cents, just a one-time 95 cents to set up an account with us. One time. I'd love to make it free, but there's a reason for that 95 cents. But there's a reason for it. And then it's free because we make our money when the applicants pay us to do the backgrounds. Okay? So it's system's free to you. You go out and do an Appfolio, or you go out and get a software program, it's going to cost you $200, $300, $400 a month. It's cheap. At the heart of Rent Perfect, I'm an investigative screening agency. I'm a PI, not a software developer. But we've kind of brought you a whole software package. But it's all based around a very solid background check. These are all perks based around it. We didn't develop something and said, hey, let's add a background check component and go hire some company to do something instant and online and quick and fast. 4 to 6 hours we take to get back a background check for you guys. If someone has to move in 4 to 6 hours, I'm sorry, that's a red flag right there. Someone can't wait 4 to 6 hours. When I get the application seamlessly and you send it to them by text and they can start filling out that application before you can even go home and find it on your computer in a file, I'll have them submitted before you can even get that paper application filled out. That's where we save you a ton of time. I usually don't. I want to meet them, I want to see them, and I don't put that link out openly on Zillow. I don't allow them to hit it. I save that, and when I'm ready to say, hey, I'd like to rent from you, I'd like to lease to you, then I send them that link. Okay? I hold that dear, and I only let one people apply at my properties at a time. It's kind of hard to get people to pay $35, $35, $35, and then you're looking through applications and seeing who's best. I think HUD Fair Housing would have a big issue with that. Once somebody applies, you need to let them run through the criteria. You're not making the decision. You guys hear that? You're not making the decision. Your criteria is bad criteria, bad piece of paper. I'm the nice guy. You're not making the decision. You're standing behind the criteria. Charles Tash, National RIA, was on a national call with me. He's like, Dave, having a criteria saved me. I had somebody call me, or I had the AG's office call me and say, why did you turn this person down? And he said, because they didn't meet my criteria. You have a written criteria? Yes. Oh, okay, that's all we need to know. Thanks, goodbye. Hung up the phone. Because they just want to know you're treating everybody the same. That's all they got. They don't care whether you decline someone. They just want to know you decline everybody with that history, no matter race, gender, familial status, all that stuff, okay? Criteria is big. Info@rentperfect.com. I'll get you a copy of that. Before I had all the manila folders, now I just have a phone. And if you want more information about what we teach, we do weekly podcasts. We online Instagram, Facebook, do all kinds of stuff. If you guys say, hey, here's a topic I'd like you to do a podcast on, we've done that too. And if you call and say, hey, I want to talk to David, you guys will get me. I don't hide behind it. Call Zillow if you use Zillow for screening and see if they'll answer any of your questions over there. You know, you can't get a hold of them. Okay. To get the 95 cents, you have to go through Anna. Anna's got a link that she can get you. I don't know where that link is, Anna, if you have it, but I don't publicly do it. It's just for members or however Anna wants to handle that. Did I have a question over here?
Well, that was part of it. Are we able to sign up tonight?
You can. You can, but I don't. I let Anna control because it's not 95 cents for everybody. It's just for RIA members. So I let Anna control how she wants to do that. We have rent payments, and we didn't even talk about the whole lease system we have. We set up your lease. It's not our lease. It's your lease in our system, and so when I lease to somebody, I get my lease ready, I send it to them, they online e-sign it, comes back to me, I online e-sign it. I meet my applicants one time before I hand them the keys, and I'm doing everything back and forth on my phone while I'm having lunch with my friends, having a good time. So they pay a $3.95 service fee. And they don't complain about it. They don't want to write you a check. And so that's the fee that comes in there. There is a $10 a month fee per bank account. So if you had 4 properties going into the same bank account, it's just $10 a month. That goes to the credit card processor. That doesn't come to me. I would pay $50 a month to have the system. I'm telling you what, if any of you want to stay after, I can show you my portfolio. I can get it on my phone. I can show you every payment I got on what day, what payment's coming up, and it just rotates through, and it's just I can take one shot and say, I'm covered.
Are you taking the steps then to keeping us informed as to, are they coming up on when we should be getting rid of them?
You will know even before me because the system will tell you everything you need to know. They just scheduled a payment. Their payment didn't go, they didn't have enough money in the bank. Payment didn't go through. I mean, you will know every step of the way until it finally is money is in your bank account. Go spend it. Okay? All right. Any questions? I kept you late tonight, and I apologize, but I appreciate it. It was worth coming to Ohio for. I showed up to the airport yesterday morning, guys, and the power in the whole airport was out. Thousands of people sitting there in the dark. Luckily, I'm from Arizona. We went back home and got another flight this morning. I feel like I've been traveling for 48 hours, but it was worth it, and I was glad to come out and share some time with you. Hope you appreciated what we brought to you, and I hope you can use some of these tools. Thank you.